December the 10th, 2024. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. And I'm Dana, by the way, and you can call in at 709-589-4406, 709-589-4406. Hope you're doing well on this Wednesday night. Should Japan's radioactive food only be fed to nuclear scientists, nuclear academics, and pro-nuclear useful puppets? I think that's a sensible solution, don't you? Sensible solutions. And I think this is the last show of this week. It's been really hard putting these shows for some reason together this week. And plus I've been doing a bunch of work out in the shed on equipment. The never ending, but it's good because to finally be able to do some physical work, right? That's Marie Curie, and two of those alongside of her daughters. I'm not sure which one is which, unfortunately. And so that particular picture is interesting because she still has both of her hands. She lost both of her hands to the radium. She got Nobel Prizes to replace it, but she can't pick them up or wipe her arse because, you know, she lost both of her hands. Would you accept a Nobel Prize and not have no hands? Or the only way you can get it was to lose both of your hands and poison humanity for billions of years? This is a clean nuclear, look. How much electricity does it take just to run this massive site? Just like bigger than a city. It's 2 dedicated gas, oil, and coal plants to build it for its 15 years or something. This one is probably 20 years. And then to run it for its lifetime, you need dedicated plants, right? Power plants. So they got you, the average person out there is asphyxiated on seawater, and the International Atomic Energy Agency, a well-known terrorist organization, and Fukushima and their alleged tanks, right? And that's what, it's an interesting that they got most of the planet, that's where the planet is looking. If the planet looked at the reactors, what's the left of the reactors, that's stump of reactor 4 and the stump of reactor 3, for instance, they would realize that it's impossible to only have tritium in the water. And that the amount that's actually went into the ocean is unprecedented. And think about this statement that Fukushima Unit 1 and 2 exhaust stacks, the exhaust stacks are different than the big wide cement cooling towers. The exhaust stacks are the tall skinny ones, and they vent from the fuel pools typically, and the burping from the reactors. The reactors are not 100% sealed. And the burping is an interesting name because this is releasing huge, deadly radiation when it burps. So to call it burp is meant to misdirect you, misrepresent the facts. And so 10 sieverts an hour by the stacks is 3 sieverts is a lethal dose. And so if you can't get near the stacks, how are you going to get near the reactors? When you look at the reactors, there's not much of it left to get near. You can't get near it anyway, and why would you? Because it's a lethal dose within, if you can line of sight see the reactor, you're getting a lethal dose if you're on that site. During the first number of years in particular, that was a given. Rod Adams, you want to see Rod Adams down there holding a fuel pellet in his hand, right? All right, so cooling Fukushima possible after connection to the grid. And the date on that was the 22nd. This was 11 days after the tsunami and 5 days after the last of the 4 reactors and 8 fuel pools had detonated. All 6 of the crippled, and they're still calling it crippled today, of course, Fukushima nuclear reactors were reconnected to the national grid on Tuesday. Wouldn't be surprised if Rod Adams wrote that one. First off, that's reactor 3 and reactor 1 over there. You're not connecting them to the grid. That's reactor 3 and reactor 4. You're not connecting them to the grid, right? In fact, you're not getting anywhere near them. There's lethal doses everywhere. But this is what we're up against. The media worldwide came out with this bizarre propaganda. So everybody, well, what are you worried about? You just connected it to the grid. But the reality of it was it simply wasn't true. And so the worst people you can trust are academics and scientists. They've failed us in every conceivable way. And there was descending voices originally, but where did they go in the last decade? Explosion at reactor 1 reportedly caused by the quake shifted the country 8 feet to the east. So before the tsunami got in, reactor 1 was melting down. It detonated, which is over there. The fuel pool had detonated. Reactor 3, it ejected the reactor core and the fuel pools right out of the buildings. That's 100 times worst case scenario of station blackout or whatever. It's unheard of. It's unprecedented. We've never heard of anything like it. Multiple reactors and 8 fuel pools. Yet the media is willingly out there telling you that Chernobyl is the world's worst accident. And that let me remind you that is unforgivable. It's unconscionable they would say that, but it's unforgivable. And the people that did say those statements knew better. And at some point in the future, it has to be held accountable. This industry has no right. This is a criminal organization. They should be treated with the utmost contempt. Industry has the utmost contempt for you and the 8 million species and your loved ones. You should reciprocate. Explosion heard at the Japan nuclear plant. High possibility of a meltdown for reactor number 1. When it blew up, every nuclear scientist on the planet knows the detonation is from the meltdown. That's what caused the detonation, is the meltdown itself. Zirconium cladding produces the hydrogen because it's caught fire, it's burning at 1800 degrees. It's igniting the plutonium pellets and the uranium pellets, and they burn at 9,000. The gases, once you displace the oxygen, when you reintroduce oxygen, then it'll detonate or spark, right? But typically, in this scenario, I'm assuming we're talking about, because of the tsunami, we're talking about oxygen. High possibility of a meltdown from reactor number 1. The government. So there's a lot of evidence originally showed up, right? U.S. Department of Energy memo, United States, indicates aftershock resulted in the explosion at the number 1. The aftershock. Because the earthquake in 2011 had, I can't remember the total number, but it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of aftershocks in just the first week, right? And this was the Non-Regulatory Commission, Nuclear Regulatory Commission's chairman, by the way. More serious than a meltdown. I'm just trying to establish something before we get into the show tonight. More serious than a meltdown, Japan's government now raising a possibility that fuel had a melt through at all 3 reactors. On June 7, 2011. Plant operators trying to find the nuclear cores. All fuel is melted through, much of it into the containment vessel. So where's the rest? Well, the rest of it was ejected out of the buildings, or Wind China syndrome. Fukushima investigator, within 1 day, complete meltdown and melt-through occurred. There's no way the government did not know it. And there's no way every academic nuclear scientist on the planet, nuclear university, and fourth-grade student, or fourth-year student in nuclear didn't know that they melted down. They remained silent. to today. 13 years later, International Atomic Energy Agency now for distribution. Molten core is suspected to have penetrated the Fukushima containment vessel. We couldn't be in Tokyo if the melted fuel went through the containment. So when that happened, that was the end of containment. If just one containment was gone, they should have evacuated Tokyo 240 kilometers away with 36 million people in metropolitan Tokyo. Not just evacuated, but abandoned it. So they pretended it didn't melt down, and that's still going on today. They really are the worst humans conceivable. And what they've done is catastrophic for everybody on the planet. And it's time to be heard. It's time to raise your voice. It's time to hold them accountable. We have to hold them accountable. They've never been held accountable. They think they're invisible, and they're not. The world finds out what's really going on. They're going to find out they're not invincible. My apologies here. I meant to turn that down. Hang on. Yeah, I'm pretty busted up here tonight again. I'll be better tomorrow, hopefully. I'm tired of always being busted up, by the way. I'm not tired of doing these shows, mind you. So the importance of this can never be underestimated. This industry has never ever had anybody come out and challenge them, and they reacted like children for the last 13 years. That's their mentality. Their IQ is that of a child, right? The melted core cracked the containment vessel. There is no containment at Fukushima reactor. So there's a lot of evidence originally. And it's not just, when you hear cesium-137, that's an insult. They're insulting you. Now, it's important. It's real. Don't get me wrong, but they're insulting you. The biggest byproduct is the curium isotopes. And they don't want to talk about curium isotopes. This is what we call the nuclear meltdown core, the curium, is because it's producing so much curium isotopes, which need lead shielding 20 times thicker than plutonium, and plutonium is quite prolific too, which kills all the animals in all the studies. But there's 1,000 kinds of radioactive isotopes released from the reactors. Because when you're mixing cement and steel and rebar and insulation, everything is burning and atomizing aerosol and become ionized and radiated. These elements were never meant to be an ionized element, right? They're a casualty of something that wasn't supposed to exist. Nuclear was never supposed to exist. You can't contain the emissions, and there's nothing on the planet that has an autoimmune trigger to defend against it. And they successfully hid that away for 80 years. It's time to have a conversation. And the conversation should be revenge and more revenge. These people need to be held accountable. It's same as you should treat the people in the nuclear industry the same as you would treat a serial killer. They're simply much worse. Every one of them, too. Radioactive, every nuclear power plant except for a few is surrounded by farms, that alone. Because the fuel that's in the pool is still splitting atoms for millions of years. This is the problem, see? When they say you got no solution for nuclear waste, that's not the problem per se. The problem is the nuclear waste is splitting atoms. That's why nuclear waste is a problem. And there's no containment, so that's released constantly into the environment through the tall, skinny towers. It's an insidious, despicable, disgusting, gross, revolting terrorist organization. That's what the pro-nuclear community actually are. These are terrorists. The worst humans imaginable. They know exactly everything I'm telling you. They've known it for 80 years. It's a coward industry. Every one of them, cowards. And how long we've been putting our phone number on the screen, right? For at least, almost a decade straight. And how many nuclear academics said, well, Dana, you're actually wrong about this, or you're wrong about that, or you're not reading this properly, or not a single one. Because they can't stand up to a rebuttal, right? That's the thing with this industry. It can't handle It can't handle any criticism because it doesn't have a leg or a foot or anything to stand on. Xenon in Washington, 133, was 450,000 times above what they call detection levels. So you're talking about several million atoms per cubic meter of air. And when you're talking about Xenon 133, you have to add in 1,000 other fission products into that same plume and persisted for weeks. So this wipes out all the species in increments over several years. And eventually, because you're talking about 1,000 kinds of fission products, if you got Xenon 133 at these copious amounts, 5,500 miles away, 5,500 miles away, you got to assume at least 200 to 500 to 1,000 other isotopes are in the same plume at these same. These numbers are unbelievable numbers. University of Texas researcher, the aerosols in Washington, but this was a plume that was symmetrical through North America. This wasn't just Washington. This is where they've done the study. But it's not like there's a little beam of plume that just ends up in Washington. By the time it gets 5,500 miles, and I'll show you what it looks like from the Norwegian, or let's do the French government study. Because that really is a better depiction, right, of how the progression works. So the plume starts coming out of Japan. You can see it to your left. And it never stops coming out. And the plume disperses. And within a few days, it's hitting North America. Within 10 days, it's covering North America. Within 20 days, the plume never stopped coming out. It's a continuous plume covering the entire planet. It's like a snowstorm, right, that starts in Japan. And after 20 to 30 days, this plume model runs to 30 days. So right here is 30 days. So think of a snowstorm 30 days later. It will look like this. And the snow never stops coming. It never stops snowing. The snow never melts. And it goes on for a couple of billion years before it finally turns to something so-called harmless. But the academics have argued that even when it decays to radioactive lead, it's still anthropogenic man-made radioactive lead, which still has harmful effects upon some species. It still attacks something. So instead of having snow that's visible and you can see it, and you got to get winter tires and get out your snowblower or whatever, you can't see it, but the volume is the same. It's the exact same as a snowstorm covering the planet, except you can't see it. It's been going on for 80 years. It's assimilated now in everything. But Japan was a pulse event. And they need to be held accountable. The nuclear industry needs to be held accountable. Forget about TEPCO. Right? Because that's what they want you to blame. They want you to blame a corporation instead of the nuclear industry, which was supposed to step in and save us. When they can't, it doesn't work that way. Once you blew up, you're not going near it. So when you see these big plumes covering the entire planet, that plume has 1,000 different types of fission products into it. If you find one, you might as well look, you'll find the others. Okay, so reactor 1 was caused by the earthquake, meltdowns. Reactor 2, fuel rods, and this was the FIA, the Freedom of Information. And I got links below to the Freedom of Information from the nuclear regulatory site itself. There's around 4.3 million emails exchanged because, Fukushima was no big deal. There's around 4.3 million emails. A lot of it's redacted. But this particular one's March the 14th. So this is day 3. And so here's what they had to say. Fukushima reactor number 2 fuel rods were fully exposed. If they're fully exposed, they're melting. To catch fire, the minute the zirconium cladding is exposed, it lights up at 1800 degrees. And inside of it is uranium and plutonium pellets. They're also covered in zirconium claddings. So the fuel rod is a zirconium fuel rod, empty. It's a tube. And you're putting all the pellets down there. Each pellet of plutonium uranium is covered in zirconium, right? And zirconium, once you're going through a chain reaction, is not The harm is it's unbelievable. The emissions from the radioactive fallout is 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. And when the plumes are covering the entire planet, and you think you got away from it, you think because you're not getting cancer that you somehow magically escaped it, then you're delusional. There's not a species on the planet that's escaped this nightmare. This industry is well aware of what they're done and putting it in an earthquake zone and the tsunami zone. They knew this was going to happen at some point, if not right away in the future. It was going to happen, and they have a lot of reactors in that zone, which is because we have the luxury of hindsight. Is quite worrisome. The number 2 fuel rods were fully exposed, and melting is feared. Well, this is just being polite. No, because anybody in the academic community knows that the minute you hear the fuel rods are exposed in the fuel pools, that's a meltdown. That's out of control. So reactor 2, though, when you look at it, it doesn't look too bad because it went bloop, China syndrome, right away deep into the earth. Because it burns. And we're talking about the fuel pools with around 6 million pounds going straight down into the earth and burning at 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. And you need the right conditions to see the emissions, and there's videos of it, where the whole site disappears in this radioactive fog. There's no Hollywood movie can make a horror movie to do it justice, I can assure you. The fuel rods at the quake-hit Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disease factory number 2 reactor were fully exposed. Listen, when number 1 blew up, you can't go near the reactors. And they didn't go in there and pump water into it. They didn't put borated water into it. There's nothing you can do. You got fuel rods thrown all over the site. You suicidal, and no matter how determined you are, you can't get near the melting reactors. It's just the laws of physics. Not due to overheating, it's due to no water. The rods catch fire and burn, and you have a meltdown. And anything that's in the pool, any water that's in the pool will evaporate right away because you're talking about 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, and it doesn't need oxygen. So once it burns at the surface, it'll burn straight down into the water, and that'll just boil the water off immediately. The rods were exposed as a fire pump to pour seawater into the reactor to cool it ran out of fuel. There was only originally there was only one fire truck that survived. And pumping seawater was the worst thing you can do because of the sulfur, the way it reacts with the elements, and it creates these hot particles that are catastrophic. And they done it for 30 or 36 days, was it? Pumping seawater on the melted reactors. And they didn't need to do it because the reactors were gone. They done it to make you think that they had it under control. The cover story was immediate. Like they say, but all the powers are connected in just the first 4 days or something. They're not connecting power to buildings that don't exist anymore. These are skyscrapers, 19-story buildings, by the way. TEPCO, which has the credibility of a serial killer, said water levels later recovered to 30 centimeters in the lower part of the fuel rods. So what the hell are they talking about? The fuel rods have zirconium cladding. The minute that's exposed to air, it catches fire. The seawater injection and burns at enormous temperatures, which will ignite the plutonium and uranium. The seawater injection operation started. Water levels number 2 reactors falling sharply, but only one of the five fire pumps are working. The other 4 were feared to be damaged by a blast that occurred in the morning by the number 3 reactor, the Medusa reactor. It looks like that. That's the explosion. So the other 4 fire pumps were damaged. Well, what it really means, though, is you're talking about a mixed oxide, plutonium mixed oxide reactor tossing decades of reactor cores all over the area. You're not going in there, no matter what kind of suit you got on. You're not going back in there. It just doesn't work that way. You just run away and let it run its course. And that's what they've done, and plotted the cover story to make you think that they actually come out a few days later and said they connected power to these buildings that don't even exist. that are nuclear meltdowns, which means there's gamma shines, X-rays, neutrons, gammas, alphas shine, and you can't get near the buildings. You can't mitigate a nuclear meltdown once it starts. You just get away and let it run its course, which is a catastrophic event for every species on the planet because of the way radioactive fallout works. Japan earthquake, new fire at the Fukushima nuclear plant, 16th of March. On Tuesday, crews continued to work to bring electricity back to the facility and managed to turn on the lights in the control room on number 4. Well, that's reactor 4 over there. It was pointless to turn on the control room lights, even if it's not true, because the tsunami ripped the whole coast off the country. It left a pile of floating debris in the Pacific the size of Texas, 2,000 square kilometers, or miles rather, from the tsunami washing back out to sea with all the infrastructure, right? So on 5 days in from the tsunami, 5 days in, they're saying they connected power again to number 4 reactor, but number 4 reactor looks like the building to your left, and ultimately when they cleaned it up, there was nothing left of the building. This is simply unacceptable that this industry had done this. There's no way forward without the truth. And the truth is brutal, but there's no way forward without the truth. So what they done for number 4 reactor? The dirty rotten scoundrels. They built a contraption off-site. This is the contraption. It goes up and across. And then they brought it in, and they gutted this with remote control cranes. They laid a foundation. They start laying this in there with the cranes. And there is some people there underground, the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society. But this is held together by gravity. So they assembled this, and then they put, see right there, that's just a single panel. There's 2 panels right there. And they're held by gravity. The crane swings it in. They got cameras zoomed in. And then they just drop it. And it's so heavy, it just hangs there. Then they went up there and pretended, not went up there and pretended, but they were pretending on camera over there that they're 150 feet above this stump, stood up in the top of that building. This is simply absurdness because the average person has no concept. But the nuclear industry, everybody in the nuclear industry knew what this, everybody in the media had to participate for the law to work. And every university had to participate for that law to work. Now remember that structure, this contraption that doesn't do nothing. It's there to hoodwink you. It has no functional purposes whatsoever. It's completely empty, right? There's nothing up there. You can't go up there. It's a nuclear meltdown, for goodness sakes. The structure was meant to make you complacent so you didn't understand the big picture. And the big picture, this is how bad a nuclear meltdown. They went through all that trouble. It's just the only way to describe the industry is unrelentingly hateful, right? It's just a hateful. It hates us, and it's ready to rock and roll to come out with a big cover story on a drop of a hat. And think about the revolting. I got to get the thing here for 1 second. A nuclear scientist based in Qatar told Al Jazeera that the Japanese authorities are thinking of bringing in the retired workers to the plant because they have a short lifetime left. So you have people that worked all their lives and deserve to see their grandchildren grow up and enjoy that. The disgusting, despicable Japanese culture throws them away like they're paper towels. The nuclear scientist is not volunteering to go in there. The elderly, to where reactor fuel is landed all over the site. I mean, my goodness. Now, it wasn't just reactor 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 2 fuel pools at the top of each of the reactors, which is a total of around 36 reactor cores that are gone. which is, it's worse than every nuclear accident in history. Just one of these buildings are worse than every nuclear accident in history combined. But the common spent fuel pool, where decades of reactor cores were stored, which is right here, is completely pixelated out. Why did he pixelate that out? Now, that's on the same street, the same height as reactor 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's right across from reactor 4. Right? And so why is this all pixelated out, the common spent fuel pool? Which had at least 10 million pounds into it. And when you look at the reality of it, they've done the same thing to reactor 6, by the way. That was pixelated out. This was released 10 years by, there were drone pictures, 736 drone pictures released. And when you zoomed in, this is what you saw. Now, I'm the only person that's ever covered it that I know about. There could be somebody out there that covered it. I've never found them. And it's not from lack of looking. My goodness, all these years. Now, here's what I want for Christmas. I want something for Christmas from everybody. Not going to cost you nothing. Not going to cost anybody a nickel. So, I have 1,630 subscribers. I want to see James Lucid with 1,620 subscribers get another 20 subscribers. Hopefully before the show's over, but at least by Sunday. On Sunday, I want to see James Lucid with 1,640 subscribers at least. More than I got. That'll be awesome, man. And his latest song, I can't watch it. We're getting a pain in my stomach from laughing. The words he's got into it. Just holy shit. Probably one of the best songs I've ever heard. I've listened to it 10 times. He's only got 10 views on it. But that's what I want for Christmas. I want to see James Lucid with more subscribers than me. Because the reality of it is his music is probably more likely to make it out there and wake up the planet than mine. Squeaky old voice is going to. But his last song is the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's perfect. It's probably the most perfect song ever. I don't know how he came up with it, but I can't watch it without getting a pain in my guts from laughing. Oh, that's James calling in right now. Oh. Hi, James.
Hey, yeah, I thought I'd call because it's just so funny. Because, it's only because I paid YouTube, to be honest. Like, I paid YouTube $20 for that track to promote, and I don't know if I didn't do that, there would be no one looking at this stuff. Right.
That's so awesome, though,
but,
isn't it?
It's carefulness because I realized, after endless conversations with AI, which is down right now, by the way, which is weird, but that the nuclear industry, it's all pay per play. So they pay YouTube to censor you.
Good point, actually.
Well, they censor anything that's
negative,
anti-nuclear. It's like they just give them a check. They're like, hey,
a blank checkbook. A blank checkbook, right. And there's no limit. Just they don't have many to pick on, right? But now they got a new guy on the block named James Lucid, and you're.
the funny thing is, like last night at the end of your show, this troll came out of nowhere. He's like, Dana Durnford's a fearmonger. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you wait till the end of this show, you fucking cowards,
yeah.
Because he knows.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, this is AI trash music while Meltdown Queen's playing. I'm like, if you're going to comment on the music, it just shows how fucking people are.
Well, you see what you've done. You see what you've done originally. They panicked and made their own song, or Mr. Dana, was it?
It was horrible.
It was terrible. It was pathetic, really, wasn't it?
It was, and it's funny because, I was tagging his channel, and even Craig, and none of them want to, they don't want to.
No, they stay away. They don't want that algorithms going up, right? they're staying away. They're desperate that you just disappear. And I'm like,
well,
the greatest thing ever will be to see James pass a million subscribers in just a couple of months. It's gold. That's gold, man.
But the only reason why that's happening is because I'll do that
gold,
Jamaica song, Nuclear Jamaica.
I love it. Yeah,
just to Jamaica.
That's a fantastic song too, eh? It's a fantastic song.
Well, but it's just targeting it to Jamaica only.
And see,
the key, right?
and see, people don't realize that we can't get a high quality professional singer to sing this stuff. We can't do it. But
no.
James can produce it, and it sounds just as good. I don't give a frig what anybody says. It's just as good, man. If I didn't know this was AI, I would. If I didn't know myself and I heard it, there's no way I'm not going to say that's incredible. It's incredible regardless, but I'm just going to say you would assume it's somebody famous, somebody famous, very refined with a big band behind them, a big budget,
right.
Produced the music. And that's what matters. That's all that matters is that it meets those standards.
That's all that matters. And it's just one person behind it. And this would be impossible.
I love it.
There's no way one person could do all this.
No. And, now, until you'd done it, I would have never thought that. I never dreamt it, right? I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, James. Yeah.
Well, that's the whole revolution that we're in right now, and no one's really attacking. No one's utilized that I have found out there. They're not seeing. They're not putting the pieces together like how music talks emotion to people.
It tells a story, right? On top of that, you're telling a story.
Yeah, like how many people out there that listen to modern day trap music have been introduced to nuclear? So I've just basically tapped into the genres, kind of just utilized this stealthism.
Yeah, I see that.
I'm familiar with enough with what's going on.
Censorship,
and I can just insert into that and turn that key down a bit and bring those people in. And the hope is that they find you. I mean, I want to
and get educated. Absolutely, I hear you. But I also realize that you're telling a story. See, and
figure it out over time. They're like, well, where the hell is this guy getting his inspiration from?
Yeah,
Dana and Kevin. It's that simple.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but the reality of it is, music is an education. I can name endless amount of songs that I learned word for word when I was young. Like it's not like, and I know so many of my friends done the same thing, right? We were, and that taught a lot of, like back in the day, like Bob Dylan would tell a story, and whoever, right? A lot of the songs were about telling a story. Neil Young, Tin Soldiers and Nixons coming to Kent State University shooting, or Bob Dylan talking about Hurricane, Reuben Carter locked up for a crime he didn't commit, a professional boxer nobody could beat, so they just got him in jail, right? Got rid of him. And so music is an important story, but music lights up your brain. 19% of your brain gets lit up that you never use for nothing else, only for music. And you have to visualize things, right? That's the beauty of music. Like, you know what I mean? We're designed for that. Yeah,
right, but the thing that's so crazy is that this is, like you said it last night on your show, you're like, this is the most important, I'm like, this is the most important topic of the planet.
Period.
Bar none.
Yeah, that's fact.
There is. And it's like, when there was a period of time in the 70s, Bruce Springsteen, they would have these anti-nuclear but everyone got it confused with the hippies. They're like, they damn hippies. They don't know what they're talking about. Like, and they never took it to the technical level. They're just like, oh, let's be peace for the planet. And it got all confused, the masses, and the nuclear industry walked all over it. And never again has there ever been music aimed at them.
That's a fact, yeah. And now it's total different. It's like, it's a total different game now.
How is this possible? Like you and Kevin say it all the time. Like, we took this on. One of the most important things. We've had to suffer for this. But how come any musician? How come there hasn't been a musician out there that's taken this?
TEPCO made a blacklist of anti-nuclear musicians and movie stars, right? We got those headlines there somewhere. So that's a great point. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's a great point.
Well, now they can't stop it because it's a lot easier to call a record label.
Jingle
right?
bells. Like, oh my God, that's so great.
But now with the speed and delivery, because I could sit down. I'll take an article of the day about Fukushima, and it comes through the news alerts.
And you're like, this is bullshit. And you get inspired now.
Right, and I'll just take that article. I'll give it to AI. Be like, listen, this is what we're doing, and this is a custom GPT I developed with all those FOIA requests. All those PDFs. I uploaded every single one of those.
Oh wow!
And then I can query and be like, hey, what lyrics can we get that's damaging to the NRC about this? And da-da-da-da-da. And it comes, and it's like, we can work with it.
I'm hoping to do the same thing with my AI too, right? I think, but by the end of the month, by the end of the month, I should be able to plug it in and talk to my AI when we're doing shows and say, which article was it that had 15 times more breast cancer within or 6 times more breast cancer within 50 miles of a nuclear plant? It'll just bring up that out of the 60,000 studies I got to, right? Because I can't remember where they're all to. But the AI, because I'm just saying that for people that are out there that don't appreciate how powerful this actually is. And the same thing what James is saying. So he can string all this information all of a sudden, boom, and it's right at your fingertips by just a query, right? And you can.
And it's like, this is what we have right now. In the future, you're going to be able to upload your videos. It's going to be able to index them and understand them all.
Yeah.
Wow. You got to save everything you've got. Everything is such gold data. It's amazing. You got to have backup to the back.
I've been doing that today and yesterday and the day before. I'm backing up everything on on my whole operating system here. And now I'm out on the other systems. I'm backing that up because I reform.
They better be scared to death. I don't know what the nuclear industry is thinking. They're trying to use AI in their micro reactors at INL. Like, I tore that whole thing up.
The National Laboratory,
intermission in the cafeteria. I'm there, and it's like this is really like the only way to battle against the nuclear industry at this point in time, I think, is just to use AI back against them. And it's kind of dystopian. It's kind of weird. It's like we're living through a William Gibson book or something, where we're taking technology and trying to use it against them. But I don't know what else. This is, it's going to get, it seems like there's a possibility that we can win over, the reality for people to understand that this is all nuclear energy is a complete.
It's a nightmare. It's a disaster.
It's a nightmare. And just like that idiot yesterday that was calling you a freedom of, all you do is just talk about the news cycle. How are you?
And I'm bringing everything I'm saying. I'm backing up with the documentation. But if I didn't see the comment, I wasn't paying attention. I would have came because Dana got rid of him for me. Thank goodness. But I would have came back with you can buy that T-shirt on my website. That would have been my reply if I had spotted it, right? Fear mongering.
It's just. But what's insane about this is it's not like they don't admit that the cores are out of containment. Everyone can agree on that. But it's like there are people walking this earth that aren't concerned about that and think it's not a problem. You got these people like Radioactive or whatever on YouTube. He's going over to San Onofre. He's talking to people over there. I talk to people all the time, try to make them know that radiation's no problem, and try to make our crowd look like we're a bunch of idiots. It's just ridiculous, right? Like,
these are terrible people. That's what they are. They're doing it on purpose. They know the difference, and they're promoting the narrative that everything is okay. I really a little bit shocked. I think of them as functional autism or something like that. That helps me understand why some people are able to be that evil, because the world doesn't appreciate how evil that actually is. And it's not illegal to poison us. If it was illegal to poison us, they would be in jail immediately for what they're doing, right? For those lies and those misrepresentation. They're literally going in and lighting a fire in a theater full of people and locking the doors, except it takes 10, 15, 20 years to manifest the deaths and the illnesses. And telling a lie like they're doing that's the one thing that drives me, obviously, nuts. I got a big problem with that, right? I want them held accountable, and I can't. I'll never quit until they're held accountable. I foresee them being held accountable. In my dreams and in my normal world, I physically see them being held accountable. And so I need to manifest that, see? Because I see it. It's not something like, I wish. I don't see it that way. I see them being held accountable. And when you think that way, there's a reason for it, especially when you're like myself or you, we've been at this a very long time. When we see the world that way, it's because it must be going to be that way, right? Like the industry, there's no nuclear renaissance. We'll agree on that, for instance, with everybody out there. And the reason there's not no nuclear renaissance is because there's a couple of us out there educating the investors and the policymakers and everything else, and they're all going like, holy shit, right? Like the chicken necks were telling us one story. We go see Dana or Kevin or listen to James's music, and it's like, right? Oh my God, right? It must be horrifying for the people when they wake up.
It's just like that statement. What would Jesus do? Well, you take a spin of that. What would Einstein think?
Yeah, he would be gone. He would be gone insane. He would have gone insane, wouldn't he?
He would just pause and reflect. I mean, holy crap! I mean,
once you see the big picture,
too far. I mean,
yeah, they gone too. That's a great point. They gone too far, and they shouldn't have existed in the first place. But they gone too far now, and there's and it's because there's no checks and balances. Right? It's co-opted a long time ago.
And it's interesting. I'm going to let you go, so I'm sorry. There's so much on my mind on this. But the fact that there's all these government agencies. You got government agencies that study the mating habits of the bark beetle. And all this, all this. There's not a single agency out there, not one, that studies the effects of what happens after the effects of the radiological nightmare like Fukushima. Not one.
No.
There's like no one that studies what happens to the environment, what takes place, what to do about it.
And there's nobody prominent either, right? The ones that are, there are some out there, right? But they're the industry. Their job is they study it to come up with a cover story to cover up what happened. They'll study it and they'll say, oh shit, radiation done this. They won't put it out in the study. They'll come out and blame it on the proverbial climate change. If you get pulled over by a cop and the cop asks you why you're speeding, all you got to do is say in the future, climate change. If you're late getting home, if you're late getting to work, the boss asks why you're late, just climate change. Oh, that's okay, but don't worry about it. Take the day off and pay. Because everybody's accepting that narrative, but because they don't, it hurts the brain too much to try to think about what's really going on, right? How do you explain it?
It was like, exactly. And it was like something I think Kevin said, like Fukushima, hell of a way to create climate change. There you go.
The best way.
Let me let you go. Thank you so much.
Great stuff. Love you, buddy. Keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing what you're doing. Never give it up, my friend. Okay. God bless. Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, James. That's James Lucid. That's James Lucid. You know him in the comment section. I also know him through his music. I got his site up there. We want to see that an extra 20 subscribers tonight. But tomorrow morning, I want to see him, more subscribers. And I can assure you, I'm not going to move. My site doesn't move. I think I got 12 subscribers this month, though. That was a pretty good month. I got a total of 50,000 views or something after 3 years. Anybody else wants to come in and chuckle, throw in any nuclear scientists out there want to call and apologize for being scumbags, go right ahead. And let's get back after it. But I really want to see James beat me tonight in his subscribers. That'll make my whole weekend exceptionally cool. Tokyo tap water is unfit for babies. And what they told the population was iodine 131. But don't worry, it'll be gone in 7 days. This is absurdness times infinity, because you have multiple nuclear meltdowns. The tap water was full of plutonium, uranium, americium, and it meant that Tokyo was supposed to be abandoned. That was the confirmation right there. And the pipes are all radioactive forever. Everybody's washers and dryers and sinks and shower heads and everything else is incredibly radioactive. And we know that because they can't get rid of their sewage because it's so radioactive. They can't get rid of their garbage properly because it's so radioactive. They can't get rid of the sediment from their water filtration facilities because that's so radioactive. They want TEPCO to take 50,000 bags in the first year from around Tokyo. And TEPCO's like, oh, you find it, you keep it. 50,000 one-ton bags of sediment from their water reclamation, water filtration facilities. Like, if I'm there and I'm reading that in the paper, I'm packing up and going. And I'm not drinking, I'm not getting a shower, I'm gone. And I'll be happy that I survived the betrayal, right? The International Atomic Energy Agency lacks data on the temperatures of the spent fuel pools of Reactor 1. And we're talking about 36 million people in metropolitan Tokyo should be gone. But they covered up the meltdowns and kept them there because they didn't want to lose all that taxes and all that economics. But that's too fucking bad. You have multiple nuclear meltdowns. They're the furthest people, the males are the furthest you can get from a man in the nuclear industry. They're just the worst cowards. James Lewis said it perfect earlier. They're cowards. Right? And I almost cut him off by saying cowards too, right, at the same time. Because I just intuitively knew he was going to use that word because that was the only really appropriate word that you could say on the telephone and on the airwaves without being... And it's okay to call them fucking cowards too, right? Because they're the worst humans conceivable. What they done after Fukushima, continue to do today, are the worst humans conceivable. They got to be held accountable. I want them held accountable because that's what's supposed to happen. And we have to manifest that. They got to be held accountable. We got to change the laws to make it criminal to poison us with radiation. And because right now, currently, Congress, parliaments, the Diets in all the Western European countries don't have the authority to make it illegal to poison you with radiation. Only a non-regulatory agency, the Nuclear Regulatory Agency / non-regulatory agency, has the authority to do it, and they're not going to do it. If they did do it, the next administration would just reverse it, right? Now, they got all bases covered. What we weren't counting on was that this little tiny group of people that are not going to be driven away, not going to be intimidated, not going to be threatened, are never going to relent and are just going to get more educated, more articulate every single day. You must notice that about me. I get more articulated and deeper thoughts and more insight every single day. I see it in my own... Every single show, I see myself just bumping up another little notch when I think there's no way I can bump it up another notch because we have so much information for so long. But your brain is associating things constantly. You wake up in the morning, you're like, shit, I got to write that down. I got to talk about that tonight. This insight that we're seeing in the last number of months in particular, James's music, though, might be playing a big part in that because music does this thing to it lights up 19% of your brain. And when you're telling a story to music, like you see a lot of documentaries, right? They're just all music all the way through, right? It's meant to imprint it on the vulnerable population that are watching the propaganda documentaries. But when you use it for actual real documentation, it's an incredible weapon. There's no better weapon than music, period, anyway. We know that. It's the most important weapon we got out there. Because you can't bomb 50 million people tomorrow morning in different parts of the world who are anti-nuclear. You know what I mean? You can't get rid of these people. And people can listen to a good tune over and over and over and over, and it's subconsciously, there's a big pocket in their brain that is all the cogs and wheels are cracking along, and then they listen to this song, they watch a few pictures, and they're like, "Oh shit, I'm getting busy. I got it. I just realized what's going on." And you can't switch that off ever. That's the problem with us, is once we learn this stuff, once we understand the real picture, we're like, "Oh, crap. I can't unlearn it." And that's why the pro-nuclear stays away from it. Just the scumbags hang out, the parasites themselves that attack us. But the pro-nuclear will stay away from us because they can't unlearn, they can't unsee the pictures. They can't unsee the common spin fuel pool completely pixelated out. They can't unsee the fact that the media is no way, shape, or form ever going to be on top of a building that doesn't exist. And you can build all the contraptions you want, and you can do. They even put it this TEPCO's website. Every engineer on the planet will look at that picture and say, "Well, the building's gone. What was in it? Oh, reactor cores and fuel pools. Where were they? At the top of the building." Oh, yeah. Oh, guess what? They're gone. And every academic on the planet, when they see these pictures I show to them, they're all smarty pants. They come to my videos to try to debunk me, and they're watching. They see these pictures like, "Oh shit, Durnford's got something going on there." Right? I'm just walking away. And they can't get that out of their mind. They can drink all the alcohol. They can have all the cocktails they want. They can't unfuck their brains from that stuff, right? Neither can the policymakers and the investors. They can't unrationalize the truth anymore. Because we make sense. That's what we do. We just make sense. We bring it together. And that's I wish I was only doing a half an hour show, but you can't do it that way. You got to tell the story, whatever the story may be. And it could take you an hour, it could take you 2 hours or longer. My throat generally gives out after 2 hours. Like if I had a host that we can trust, that was articulated and willing to put themselves out there, you would see a totally different show, right? Because I don't need all the bells and whistles to talk about this story anymore. I don't need nothing. I just need a camera pointed at me and I can talk for 2 hours. Like it's not that I got a photographic memory. I just got a really good memory because I covered information so many times for so long. It's imprinted, right? And a lot of times when you hear me reciting stuff over and over and over, the exact same words, it's because that's imprinted. I can see the words like, I close my eyes, I can see the words. And that worries me, right, sometimes, because it means I've covered the story so many times that it's now imprinted in my brain permanently. It's been claimed the plant was storing more uranium than it was designed to hold. Not the plant, but the fuel pools. Right? And these little subtle details are freaking unbelievably important. They're unconscionably important. It's been claimed that the plant was storing all the body, like there's no repository on the planet, so all the fuel pools are stuffed past capacity. And this is and so all the fuel, by the way, is splitting atoms with no containment. That's in the fuel pools. The same atoms as you would for millions of homes is being split into the biosphere. Hang on here. Where's the poll to? I screwed up something. Oh, I'm on the right window. When we click that button, it should show up. There we go. That was kind of fast. Let me slow that down a little bit. Let me try that again for a second. Hang on. Oh, I know what happened. I changed it to the trajectory coming in from the left-hand side. I forgot I had done that there about half an hour ago. Should Japan's radioactive food only be fed to nuclear scientists, nuclear/academics, nuclear academics, and pro-nuclear useful idiots? And that would be fantastic. First off, it'll stop them from producing inbreeds. I mean, that's a win. and second off, it'll fill them up with cancers and heart problems, and liver problems, dementia, and autism. And I used to say years ago, like, some people should start working, getting jobs in senior citizens' homes for the nuclear scientists areas, and then you can start pumping them for information, right? Because they're always looking for someone to talk to. They get abandoned, right? The pro-nuclear community are abandoned when they... It's a throwaway industry. This industry has no allegiance to their employees. They're too vicious. They couldn't care less about each other. And when you finally break free of the nuclear industry, they're more likely to talk. And so these are the people that you really want to record everything they're saying 24 hours a day and put it into, like you say, James's artificial intelligence he's been building for quite a long time. Japan's nuclear wastewater discharge plant provokes worldwide protests. So why are you worried about the planned water releases when you've been hemorrhaging it into the environment and the oceans for 13 years? And this was the idea, was to draw everybody's attention away to what might happen instead of what has never stopped happening. The International Atomic Energy role is to analyze and confirm data provided by TEPCO. So when you hear recent that International Atomic Energy Agency was down to do water samples, they weren't doing water samples. TEPCO's doing the water samples. TEPCO takes it back to their office, and when the International Atomic Energy Agency is ready to fly out of there a couple of days later, TEPCO shows up and gives them some water. And there's no way they can prove that that came from the same spot where TEPCO allegedly got samples, or is the same stuff. And then they take it back to their labs in Switzerland, this normal water, and they don't find nothing in it. They're scientists. And so this is how they have plausible deniability. See? And the International Atomic Energy Agency's role is to analyze and confirm the data provided by the criminal, and then regurgitate whatever narrative the criminal gave them. TEPCO is not supposed to exist. All hands and eyes should have been trying to get hold of the nuclear industries, the nuclear universities, the nuclear academics, the nuclear scientists. They're the enemy of humanity and the 8 million species. They're hiding behind the skirt of TEPCO. Not directly collect samples and verify them. That's their words. You can go read the story yourself. That was last year. And, of course, Japan is the third biggest donor to the International Atomic Energy Agency. Grossi was down there last year this time to pick up a $15 million check, right? Thank you. See you in 2 months. Japan Times. There could be hot spots under the sea, says Tokyo professor. 2012. No telling when the contamination levels will peak. 1/3 of the fish caught in the freshwater lakes are over the maximum cesium levels. What about the other 1,000 isotopes? So I really disrespect anybody that refuses to acknowledge the other isotopes. In other words, I disrespect every nuclear academic on the bloody planet. TEPCO began coating the seafloor with cement mixture. Well, they wouldn't do that unless something landed in the ocean, right? They're not like coating a spot. They're coating the seafloor. They can't find anything in the ocean, which is simply not true, by the way. That's their cover story. And on June the 13th, 2023, last year, Young Jong-il, a professor at the Department of Nuclear Quantum Engineering, came out and said that if you dumped everything out of the reactors into the ocean for 13 years, it was equal to 3 grams of sugar going into the ocean. This is a professor in South Korea of nuclear and quantum engineering, put on a pedestal, and this was circulated worldwide in all the major medias. I mean, like, my goodness, right? And last year, at the same time as that, they were talking about the International Atomic Energy Agency doesn't collect things on their own. They wait for TEPCO to give it to them. Within 1 month, this statement came out about the 30 million one-ton bags of radiation they picked up in just a tiny fraction of the land. But it's not, like the way they've done it and what we're talking about is the least effective thing you could do. And what they're doing there is they're cutting it open and dumping it into a pile. The storage is insane. You're talking about 30 million one-ton bags. The International Atomic Energy Agency is not a regulator anywhere on this planet, and not in a position to judge or approve Japan's soil or tanks or nuclear or anything else. They're not a regulator, and they're not in a position. They don't have any authority over any country. They don't have any authority they can't hold anybody accountable. And they're UN, which is a military-industrial complex. They really are the worst humans conceivable, these people. They're the gutter. If you go down to the gutter looking for the worst humans imaginable, you'll find them at the International Atomic Energy Agency. These are the worst of the worst humans. The crimes they've already committed is the only reason they're working for the UN. It's because they already proved to be exceptionally evil. That's how they got the job. Radioactive contamination scare threatens the fishery industry. The South Korean Times. The current flows along Japan and joins the Pacific, reaches the United States, and dissipates on its way back to Hawaii. There's no way any radioactive Japanese fish can reach Korean waters unless the current flows backwards. So this was an assertion they came out with last year. Think about that statement. But then when you think about the evidence that we got, the public concern over Japan's fish and South Korea imports looks to be justified. We're only talking about imports for a second. Contaminated seafood recently on sale in South Korea added to the fears that over 6 million pounds since 3/11, and this is 2013, and a strong backlash. So they sent back 6 million pounds. How much was consumed in South Korea? But anonymous Korean official says the radiation detection rising in South Korea because of the 2 Fukushima reactors are currently leaking. Now, we know they're not leaking, they're hemorrhaging. They detonated and lost most of their inventories. I mean, I really despise them for using the word leaking. That kind of drives me over the deep end constantly because we cover it every single day. We'll cover those words. The plume covered the whole planet in 19.5 days, 468 hours. And if you think you escaped it, you think your children and your grandparents and your aunts and your uncles and your loved ones and your neighbors and your pets and everybody escaped this, you are sadly, you are absurd. You are just simply dishonest. Cesium-137 hotspots detected in Seoul, South Korea, emitting 1,000% normal background radiation, 1,200, 1,000% normal, but yet the media is out there currently saying no one died at Fukushima, nothing reached South Korea. There's no way for it to get there. But look, we got endless information showing up. Bloomberg, growing global threat of radiation contaminated metal. Plutonium, weapons-grade uranium found. Chronic exposure to low doses of radiation leads to cancer and heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, schizophrenia. And when they talk about birth defects, the reason the birth defects are shown or manifesting is because the children and the baby birds and insects and baby mammals and everything else, their thyroids are producing permanently radioactive hormones, and their bones are producing permanent radioactive stem cells. And this is why we're seeing these connotations of birth defects. It's congenital malformations is much worse than the birth defects that they're talking about. And this is prolific now through all the species. 12 million yen to censor Twitter. It was a $155,000 budget for burning. They were burning radioactive debris in Kita Yoshuki, or I don't know how to pronounce it, and I don't care. Began radioactive debris incineration, and the budget is $155,000 to Twitter to censor me and you. Hey, Twitter, we'll give you $155,000 US The Silence, Dana and Kevin Blanche and James Lucid and a few others. A couple of handfuls of people, right? Do you think that's the only? That's just for that one facet. A blank check, right? Nuclear expert xenon detection in South Korea may be from Fukushima reactors. Well, what else could it be? The numbers are extraordinary. In South Korea, where they said there was no way the radiation can get there. But I just showed you 7 different ways the radiation actually got there. And at that time, that particular administration was phasing out nuclear. The current administration, Young, who's now going to be taken down, the president of South Korea, is going to be, was he declared martial law last week, right? For a few hours, and the backlash is still going on today. The protests are still going on today. He withdrew that, of course, because the parliament wouldn't okay it. But he set in motions the reality of how evil that person actually is. And the previous administration was anti-nuclear. And the first day he got the job, we covered it. He showed up in front of a nuclear power plant the next morning after he got elected. Got a whole bunch of nuclear power plants employees to come out in front of the gate. So they got the big sign over their heads and got their pictures taken saying they're reversing the phasing out of nuclear and there's going to be a nuclear renaissance. But there's no nuclear renaissance. The nuclear industry has wields this much power. He got that job as the president of South Korea because he was willing to rescind the phasing out of the nuclear power in South Korea. I mean, South Korea professor of nuclear quantum engineering trying to convince everybody that 36 reactors cores melting down at Fukushima is equal to 3 grams of sugar. It's probably one of the most frightening statements imaginable, that they have that much hubris that they were willing to come out and pronounce the absurdity, which is also a single to all the nuclear students not to ever open their mouths, right? In fact, Taiwan had 2,000 nuclear students and probably another 1,000 alumni, former students and academics, spammed the internet for a couple of years. Nuclear students in Taiwan were spamming the internet every day during class, challenging any kind of narrative and claiming it was harmless. It was like a banana and a potato chip and walking in the sunshine. Let's come back over to the poll here for a minute, actually. Chile finds radiation in Korean cars that are being shipped out of countries are radioactive because of Fukushima. But yet, here's the media out there recently telling everybody, oh, everything's okay. Should Japan radioactive food only be fed to the despicable nuclear scientists and the coward nuclear academics and the pro-nuke useful idiots? Yeah, that'd be fitting. That'd be the best thing that ever happened to humanity. And the censorship tonight is like nothing else, isn't it? The censorship tonight is like, holy shit, they're gone in the super coward mode. How much did they pay YouTube tonight? I wonder to censor me. YouTube has made a fucking fortune censoring me. Or maybe they're doing it just as an act of good faith to the nuclear industry. Who knows? But South Korea saying that there's no radiation can make its way there. Like the cars they're shipping out of there are radioactive. And they downplay it by saying test shows up to a level 5, level 9 needed for alert. No, there's no safe level of radiation. If there's any anthropogenic man-made radiation in the car, you don't want to get in that car. You don't want to breathe the air in that car. You don't want to touch anything in that car. The worst humans conceivable is the pro-nuclear. They're literally nothing. They don't have any attributes of a human whatsoever. Radioactive rain caused 130 schools in Korea to close. Your rain in California had 10 times more radioactivity. 10 times more. It was much worse than that. California, I should just do another show on California. And that's I have to do a 2-part show. Let me see what I got down here. All right. And then look at the numbers tonight. I got nothing. I got 17 viewers. We got 15 likes. We only got 18 votes. An hour and 15 minutes into the show? Really? I've been doing this for over a decade, for goodness sakes. I don't lie, I provide all the documentations for every single one of my assertions, which is just unbelievably labor intensive, okay? Like I dream sometimes about just doing like a radio show where I don't have to do nothing, just sit, I don't even have to dress up for nothing. Just sit here in my pajamas, nobody can see me, and just talk for an hour and simple radio show. But I can't educate the population appropriately with the urgency necessary. And so I took the hardest route you can take. Where I got the worst. I love every second of it because I know that I'm conveying the right story. But I also know that we're way down this rabbit hole. So you got 130 schools in Korea to close, but there's no radiation showed up there. No deaths from Fukushima. That's the preamble. We just got through the preamble, and that took an hour and 17 minutes. just the introduction. We're not even going to get to the show tonight. I'm going to have to leave that show for Sunday. I'm not going to get to it, so I shouldn't touch it right now. I should just leave it and talk about other stuff for a while. I was out working today, and my stomach's kind of cramped up on me from the position I was in. But we got everything sorted out. Just bear with me here. And my throat is shut too, eh? My throat is shut. So nobody died. Let me just bring up the name, because there's the two big stories tonight. One was Rod Adams, and another one was this worthless fucking piece of shit. Chief Professor of Mechanical Engineering at City University said the amount of water discharged will be 1 drop per month into the Pacific Ocean. 1 drop per month. And the report by the International Atomic Energy Agencies released this month was scientifically recognized. So here they are talking about 1 drop a month is released into the ocean. 1 drop. 1 drop a month. Calling them demons would be... that's not what we wanted. Bear with me here. That's not it. Well, let me start off with this one. 1 drop a month is released into the ocean. So everybody's fixated on the ocean through the propaganda machine, right? But the numbers was 1 million times normal. This is the French government of cesium-137. Remember, there's another 1,000 isotopes in that same plume. But just cesium-137 was 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. The official story today is only 1 drop a month is released into the ocean. The whole planet was buried in radioactive fallout immediately. I mean, silence is our worst option. The biggest mistake we can ever make is being silent. You'll never look back on telling the truth and be ashamed of yourself, I can assure you. Plutonium-239 dispersion in North America. bring that up on the screen for you. This is topical numbers of plutonium. This was based on 20 days, and 21 days in this model. The Neptunium-239 dispersal is also based on 20 days in that model. And then you can have the similar plume models covering the entire planet of every other isotope. The isotopes don't travel by themselves. It'll never work that way. And then the numbers that we got from the studies are numbers we've never conceived before. No deaths from Fukushima. Time of Singapore in this one. I'm not going to cover the story tonight, but I just want to get Dr. Alvin Chew. And him and Rod Adams got a lot in common. They're truly the worst humans we've ever seen. So when they tell you that nobody died, no deaths from Fukushima, you might want to ask, like there's one street where 7 people died on a single day. Do you know of a street where 7 people dropped dead on a single day? Just walking out shopping on a street in Fukushima City and then dropped dead? 865,000 extra cancers in Fukushima in the first year. You think that's from Pokemon or something? Not everybody got health care. Not everybody was diagnosed. And so to come out and suggest that none of this happened and that nuclear is wonderful is almost too much to bear, right? It's almost too much to bear. Because of Marie Curie, nothing is edible again on the planet forever. Everything is poison. Because of that stupid idiot Marie Curie. The moron Marie Curie. The traitor of humanity, Marie Curie. I'm trying to keep going till we get... Oh, we got a minute. We got an hour and 27 minutes. No, hour and 22 minutes punched in. Yeah, I'm just... my throat is too raw. I'm too burnt out to keep going. I'll try to pump in another couple of minutes. What do you think the media is pretending around a building? Like, you're talking about CBS, BBC, CNN, ABC Australia. It's just a fraction of them. Why would they pretend around a building? Why take that chance? Because when it comes to fake news, it's hard to beat that one. That's the most fake news example we have on the planet. And nobody's talking about it. Now, I made that picture probably 10 years ago. Like, I got them now. And they're still out there being evil, degenerate monsters. And the censorship on me tonight is extraordinary. You can feel the hate against me tonight from the coward nuclear industry. I give them my phone number all the time, but all they'll do is call up and attack me. They won't. There's no such thing as a debate. And they're weasels. As soon as they open their mouth, you can say, well, oh, fuck, that's a weasel. They're the worst type of people too, aren't they? They're picked out of the pro-nuclear community because they don't have any kind of concept of reality. They don't covet life or anything else. They're 100% so self-centered. And it's a little bit frightening that people like that will get well-paying jobs because that empowers them to be monsters even worse, right? Nuclear industry is weird. This is why it does it. So pretending the building doesn't exist, clearly it doesn't exist. You get these pictures at TEPCO's website, or the NRC, for instance. And then these videos of them after doing it, here we are on top of reactor 4 getting the fuel out of the pool. It's let me see if I can find the video, because it's absurd. I might get lucky and find a video. We're trying to kill 5 or 6 minutes, so let me see if I can find it. I don't understand why they hate everything and everybody so much, but we know they do. Right? We don't have to understand it. We would like to, but I think everybody in the nuclear industry that ever lied for the nuclear industry should be Their brains should be preserved so we can study them to see why they're so evil, and why they're so monstrous, and why they're so hideous, and why they hate us so much. Probably not going to find a video, and I don't know why I didn't import that particular video, because I got the video of this. Oh, I know where it might be though. Hang on a second. Just bear with me. Reactor 4 might be in that pile. There's a lot of them there, though. They're all individual. We want the whole package in a single video. Just humor me for a couple moments here. Oh, well, I can't seem to find it. I got a lot of maintenance to do on this equipment tomorrow, because it's hard to appreciate what my studio looks like, but it's quite the nightmare. I'm not looking forward to it at all, but I really can't avoid it anymore. And it's pretty impressive, actually. But that doesn't solve the problem of me looking for that video, so I might as well give it up. It's hard to believe I can't find that. That's the video we played forever. You think I'd find that one right away everywhere. And because I'm looking for it, I'll never find it. Let's give it up. I'm going to waste everybody's time in the hopes I'm going to find that particular video. As soon as the show's over now, I'll find it everywhere. It'll be all over the place. Won't be able to get away from it. We're close to 127. Let's call it a night. Tommy plays her Jingle Beckwell song tonight. We're going to play James's most recent song. He's got another song he posted too. It's really good. But the Jingle Beckwells is just too funny. So I got to play that one tonight. That's my go-to song tonight. Should Japan's radioactive food only be fed to nuclear scientists, nuclear academics, and the pro-nuclear useful idiots? I guess that's why I only got 18 likes on my video, because they don't want that one getting any traction. They're so ashamed of themselves, they never even came in and gave it their typical thumbs down. That tells you a lot, doesn't it? They're like, don't watch Data's video, you got stuff there that's going to scare you. Just hit the auto censor button. All right. So I'm going to close it out with another crazy song by James Lucid. We want to see his site by Sunday. We know it's going to happen anyway. But I like to see it before the night's out, personally. Surpass. Get another 20 subscribers, so he's actually got more subscribers than I do, and that'll be just priceless. That'd be so appropriate. Right here. Stop rambling. We're just going to play this song here. He's got Christmas trees on top of 45-gallon drums of nuclear waste. It's a good song. Please stay around here. We'll see everybody on Sunday. I'm not going to make it back tomorrow night. I got to give myself a little break for an extra day. I'll see everybody on the next show. Unless something happens, right? We'll see everybody on the next show. Have a great night, everybody. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you make it this far, because I got literally very little tonight. And I worked my ass off. We'll see you on the next show, folks. Take care.
Window bells, sleigh bells, oh, what fun it is to count radioactive decay.
Dashing through the waste in leaky storage drum, through the seas we haste, their lives have come undone. In Inspectors wave with glee, the cameras catch their cheer, but becquerels are everywhere, this warning's crystal clear. Oh, jingle becquerels, cesium in the spray. Oh, what fun it is to say the cleanup's just a play. Hey, jingle becquerels, plutonium in the bay. They promise it's just tritium, but isotopes don't play. The barrels start to crack, the seals begin to fail. A little holiday meltdown rings their warning bell. They stage another review, their numbers bend and sway, while radiation lingers on and tides don't wash away. Silent nights, glowing shores, polished lies behind closed doors. The fallout spreads, they hide the toll, but becquerels will never forward. Jingle becquerels, cesium in the spray. Oh, what fun it is to say the cleanup's just a play. Hey, jingle becquerels, plutonium in the bay. They promise it's just tritium, but isotopes don't play. Merry fallout, everyone, sing your tune as the damage is done. Merry fallout, everyone, sing your tune as the damage is done. Oh, jingle becquerels, cesium in the spray. Oh, what fun it is to say the cleanup's just a play. Hey, jingle becquerels, plutonium in the bay. They promise it's just tritium, but isotopes don't play.